Hello, this is Al Cooley. I'm a podcast host and author, and you're listening to the Unfreaking Believable podcast.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Unfreaking Believable. We invite you to pull up a chair, relax, and join in for the next 30 minutes or so as we bring you guests who will share with you the moments that made a difference in their lives. And it's all because of that one inciting incident. We believe that life is infinitely stranger than fiction, stranger than anything the mind can invent. You might even say, it's unfreaking believable.
Welcome to the podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Jen.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Betsy. How's everybody doing tonight?
Excited to be back together. I miss you guys.
I know. It seems like these episodes have been too few and far between lately, so it's nice to get together again.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Well, we've all had a lot going on in our lives lately, and I think one of the reasons why we're feeling it as much as we are is because we're not really chatting as much in between recording sessions. We used to, get on Skype a couple of times a week, and it's just not been happening lately. So I think that probably has something to do with it.
I'm sure it does.
Betsy had some big stuff happen today.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did.
I am officially retiring tomorrow. So today was my going away party that my board of directors hosted for me. And we had a very large cake. We'll be eating cake for breakfast for the rest of the month. And, that's not a bad thing. If you can have cake for breakfast, life is good.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to becoming now a full-time author and part-time safety professional rather than a full-time safety professional and part-time author. So it's a good thing, but still got a few hurdles to cross before we get relocated, move to Arkansas, but it's going to be great. So I'm excited. Great things are ahead.
We're excited for you.
Yes, and I would like to personally welcome you in a couple days in advance. I'll grant you to the retired side of the pool.
I'm so excited. I'm the reasons why we're having to move. There's some extenuating circumstances for it, and they're not pleasant. But it's not too bad when you get to move into the woods and your whole backyard is trees, and you have nothing to do but sit and write, and maybe occasionally teach a class. So I like doing that. I don't mind. It'll be great. I'm excited.
Yep.
Well, I will tell you, because you and I are the same person,
right?
And I can testify to you that since I retired, I am absolutely no less busy than I was when I was teaching full time.
Yeah,
I don't know how that happened, but I promise you will be the same way, because you don't sit still for about 5 minutes unless you're neck deep in a tub of water. So,
oh, well, that's true. And I will be, because we have a nice, big, deep bathtub at the new house, and I'm excited to get into it.
I think we all know that's the real reason for the move.
It is. You know how Betsy loves her tubs.
Yeah. I'm totally bogarting my mother-in-law's bathtub. Yeah, I'm totally taking it over.
Absolutely. It's I think that was like the 11th commandment, if I'm not mistaken. Thou shalt not covet thy mother-in-law's tub. I think
that was thou shalt not go a day without bathing.
Oh, I see. Man,
I'm a bubble bath girl. I'm looking forward to
it. All right. Well, are you ready for my word of the day?
I am.
Definitely.
Okay, so I chose this word of the day because of what I've been having go on lately. Storage facilities in Florida have gotten absurdly expensive. And we were basically paying enough to almost have another mortgage or another rent. So I spent the last 4 weeks basically moving the contents of our storage unit all the way across town to one that's half as expensive. That's not a very interesting story at all, but that's what's been taking up all of my time. So,
and that has to do with our word of the day.
Yeah, it does. And I know that Jenny can testify to this one too, because she's been traveling to visit her family a lot lately. So the word of the day is quanked.
Quanked.
And I was gonna say, it has nothing to do with ducks, although it sounds like it should. Yeah, it's so quanked is to be overpowered by fatigue.
Oh, girl, I feel that.
We definitely feel quanked at times.
Packing up a house to move, I feel you.
Yep. So quanked has been very much in my spirit lately. And I think most of adulthood is basically just saying, okay, things will calm down after next week. and then trying to figure out what to have for dinner. That
Yeah.
pretty much is adulthood in a nutshell.
What shall we
So,
eat? And
yeah.
when
Yep.
are things going to slow down for sure?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
We
Fun
ready
facts.
for some fun facts?
Fun
Yes.
facts. Fun facts.
All right, here we go with some fun facts. So, I found this one very interesting. Vultures have a stomach acid that is so corrosive they can digest anthrax.
Ew, wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wonder if that's like possums and venom or something. You know, it just
yeah. They eat snakes and stuff. So,
Yeah.
well, okay, Vulture, you win. I won't mess with you.
And I thought this one was pretty interesting too. It would take you 17 to 18 months to walk the length of the Great Wall of China. It's a little over 13,000 miles long.
Oh, good Lord. My husband would have it done in 8 months. It would take me 24 months at least.
Yeah.
And I
I'm a
promise you,
slow walker.
any tow truck driver would tell you he could get to the other end in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. You know, to put that into perspective, though, with it being just over 13,000 miles, the width of the Earth at the equator is just under 25,000 miles. So
Wow.
it's insane how long the Great Wall of China is.
Wow. Twisty windy.
Yep. All right. And for
Crazy.
my
All right,
last
one
little
more?
fun fact today, yes, I got one more. So in Connecticut, there's a law that pickles must bounce to be considered safe for consumption. And if they don't bounce when dropped from a certain height, they are considered unfresh.
My daughter would like to know that because that girl is the pickle queen. She eats
Oh, we will get
pickles
along so
with
good. Me
every
too.
meal. And sometimes just she'll get a bowl of them for a snack.
I
Yep, me
respect
too.
that
I am a
on
pickle
a
queen.
spiritual level. Yeah, absolutely. On a spiritual level, I appreciate that.
So
Yeah.
my question for you ladies is, do you prefer sour pickles or sweet pickles?
All pickles. I like hot pickles, sweet pickles, dill pickles. We get them in bread and butter chips. We get them all. I run the gauntlet in my house.
If I'm going to eat them by themselves, then I prefer them to be sour or dill.
Uh-huh.
But if I'm going to put them in something or on something, then I'm totally cool with sweet.
Yeah.
I do like the
Yeah.
little gherkins, though. I will eat the little
Yeah.
gherkins, the sweet gherkins by themselves.
I use the sweet gherkins in salads.
Yeah, I want the sour pickles, but I do like the bread and butter. I will say I do like those.
Love me some bread and butter pickles.
When we have our garden in full gear and we're growing cucumbers, we make our own bread and butter pickles, and they're quite awesome.
What kind of pickles did we have the last time the three of us were together down in Georgia? What did we have on that charcuterie board?
We had
we
some
have
sweet
gherkins?
gherkins. Yeah.
Those were
Sweet
gherkins.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. I'm like, what did we have?
All right, enough talk about pickles, my friends. We have a podcast to record. Are we ready to get started?
Yes.
We are.
Okay. So this episode is my pick. No pickle intended. I mean, no pun intended. And I get to introduce our guest. Al Cooley is a podcaster and author. He's also a singer and songwriter, among many other things. In 1998, Al did a documentary based on true ghost stories called Ghost in the Valley, and now he's the host of the Ghost in the Valley podcast. His new book, Spencer's Ghost, is his first published novel, and it's based on an unfreaking believable story we hope Al will tell us about a little later in the show. He's been kind enough to have me on his podcast a couple of times, so a little reciprocity is in order. And Al, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Betsy, and thank you, Unfreaking Believable podcast.
Very good. You nailed it.
For having me on your show. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you.
So, yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background in the music industry and just kind of give us the gambit?
Well, music, I've been writing songs and playing almost my whole life. I mean, I think when I was 5 years old, I picked up my dad's guitar and I watched him play, and I said, he was in bluegrass and country. And so I basically, I follow all types of music. I mean, rock and roll. I even did hip hop. So, I mean, I just love music. And as you said earlier, you've seen the guitars on my wall, and the albums and cassettes and CDs. And and I opened for some pretty big artists. I mean, Steppenwolf, Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Wow.
I can't remember them all. Bootsy Collins and
Oh, Bootsy.
yeah. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. I mean, open for all these people, my idols, and So yeah, I've been really fortunate and blessed to have a pretty not super stage, but I was shared this stage with a lot of superstars, and I remember the first time out, as we played for open up for Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chick Corea, and Stanley Clark, and this was in 1973. I'm like, I was so nervous,
I can't
and
imagine.
we got on the stage, and reason how we got that job was our bass player's brother was a concert promoter. So they were looking for a short act, to open up, and I said, "Hey, we'll do it. We'll travel to New York," and I looked out there like 40,000 people. I'm like, "Oh my God!"
I promise you that right now, as my husband is listening to this, he's weeping.
Yeah.
He's just because all those people that you named are idols of his as well. So that's just what an amazing life to be able to have shared oxygen with those folks in such close quarters. That's awesome.
And then you got the bad side of the business, with the sharks out there and the people wanting to steal your music, wanting to steal your name, uh, being taken to the bank for, I mean, literally, on a lot of projects and promoters and concert venues. It's been an interesting but learning experience,
Yeah, there's good and bad in almost every industry,
hmm
and you've got to navigate the sharks to get to the tuna.
hmm
So yeah, bless your heart.
So writing songs was kind of, I always thought it was kind of easy, like writing poetry. I've had some poems published in a few books, and I made a couple of those poems into a song, so writing and publishing and editing and copywriting, I knew all of that, it, but when I got into writing this book, my new book just came out. That's a whole new game, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I learned on that. So yeah, it's all kind of a learning experience,
hmm
but I wouldn't change any of it, you
Yeah.
know.
So was being an author something that you always wanted to do? Was that something that was burning in your heart?
Not really. I mean, to be honest,
Yeah.
I never thought about it, but now that I have, I can't wait to have the second book going, maybe a third, but I've kind of got like you're smitten by that. I think you can relate to that, you know. Because my first story is based on well, my first book that was just released was based on a true story. It is based on a true story, and so that was tough, because I'm going back to 1967. So you're told to write this in a present tense, but you're in past tense and third person, first person. I mean, I was just
It's always the
constantly
hardest thing to decide
fumbling
to
around.
do. Yeah.
Right, So my editor, who was one of my editors was my sister-in-law. She was a literature professor, teacher, and she she asked me, "Can I ask you a personal question?" Sure, what's that? She says, "Did you fall asleep in literature?" And
Oh no.
I says, "I know it's bad, but I learned a lot there, and trying to keep the story flowing, keep the reader. It's not just about me. You also think about the reader reading your story, And even my wife said, "Man, these stories, I'd let her read the manuscript before I published it." She says, did this happen? Did this really happen? Did this happen?" I'm like, each chapter, "Did this happen? Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's unbelievable. Unfreaking believable." I got it now. Right.
I nailed it a second time. Did your sister ask you
My
if you fell
sister-in-law,
asleep because your
yes.
grammar wasn't that
Yeah,
great?
she, yeah.
Sister-in-law.
Amen.
That's what editors are for, because that's what held me back my entire life. I didn't start chasing my dream till I was playing the back nine of 49 years old, because I am highly dyslexic. And that's what editors are for. And that's what my husband finally told me and pushed me forward to doing it. So don't worry about your
Yeah,
grammar. That's
I'm
why we got
pushing 70, so
editors.
I'll be 70 in about another month. And so it's taken me this long to write my first book. So I have to get busy for the second one, I can't wait another 70.
Right on for doing that, though, at your age, too. That's awesome. It's like, we have to. We have to start somewhere.
Well, and we had a guest on a couple of months ago who is known for being a film director. His name is Daniel Cox, but he and I always talk about, and I think we talked about that on the show, and you just echoed it in what you were just saying, that creatives, even within one person, like a lot of different facets of creativity. They don't necessarily want to stick to just music or just writing or just sculpting or just whatever. Creatives are creatives, and they like to dabble and play in all different areas. And so you've now made your way to this side of the die. So
But yeah, that led me into having the living in that haunted house led me into starting my own production company, video. And I did a documentary in 1996 called Ghost in the Valley, hence my podcast name. So I wanted to base this documentary on true ghost stories in northeastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania. And I did quite well on that. I wasn't expecting to win the short film festival award, because I had so many great other producers and directors in this competition, and I did the whole thing myself. I went through.
I was going to ask, did you narrate it yourself?
I didn't narrate. I had a narrator. I had a camera. I had camera crew. I went to an agency in Youngstown, Ohio, for some actors. So I spent some money on this thing, hoping I would get something back. But that was another learning curve, and along the line, that wasn't paying the bill, so I got into videotaping weddings, and baptisms and funerals and you name it. I mean, people coming to me for outrageous things that you wouldn't think is on video. I taped a cat's birthday party,
okay.
Okay, I like that.
Don't say that too loud. I don't want Sugar getting any
Interesting.
ideas.
Oh yeah, sweet
nothing
sugar.
against cats, nothing against dogs, but when you have their friends coming over with their party hats on, and I'm like, at first I started laughing. I thought she wasn't serious when she was going to hire me to do this. It's like, well, what do you really want me to do? He says, videotape. I can't remember the cat's name. Her birthday party, and then like maybe 3 days before I was going to do the event, she calls and she's sobbing, on the phone, and her cat died, and but she says, I want you to keep the money I sent you and everything because you're the only one that took me seriously,
Oh, how sad.
I know. I think we all have the same look on our face. You guys
Yep.
just can't
Oh
see
my
mine.
gosh.
Yeah.
So then you became a podcaster. How did that get started?
That started in 2019. I never really followed podcasts. My son-in-law turned me onto it. He says, "Don't you listen to I mean, you like music. There's tons of programs out there with music. There's tons out there for paranormal, mystery, whatever you want to listen to. Cooking channels. There's anything you want is on a podcast." And I started following it, And I said, well, I can do this, So I didn't jump in just with my paranormal podcast. I had to do the whole thing. I did 3 podcasts. I had one on mysteries, one on paranormal, and one on music. Yeah, so my music one was I wanted to just have people on that were unsigned musicians, people that have been at the top and they're trying to get back, or they've been in a band that maybe it was Sam and the Pharaohs. Well, how about the Pharaohs? What happened to those guys in the band? When nobody thinks about them, the bass player, the drummer. So I wanted to do something like that. It just didn't catch on, And and it was so time consuming to do 3 podcasts. So I went down to 1. I kept the Ghost in the Valley and entering my 7th season next year. So I'm excited about that.
That's fantastic. Jen, do you want to go through and engineer out audio for 3 podcasts? We could make 2 more.
I'm gonna say probably not at this juncture. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better at it. I will say that the learning curve was a little rough at the beginning, but I'm getting a lot quicker at
you
it.
are.
But I am still,
Yeah.
depending on how things go. Like there are certain things I still am not. I will labor over for a long
Yeah.
period of time. So yeah, I think probably 3 would be
A bit much, huh?
Yeah, that would be maybe a little more time. As long as I don't ever want to write another book, then maybe I could
Oh,
do
well, no,
3.
I'd rather
But
you write
yes,
some books.
I think
Yeah.
I have a few stories left to tell. So
Yeah. Well, okay.
Al, I asked if you had narrated your own documentary because you have such a great like radio voice and for like podcasting voice. So I had wondered if anybody had ever told you that and if that was part of what got you into podcasting, but I guess
You're
it was
right,
your
right.
son.
I was even thinking about doing my own audiobook for the Spencer's Ghost. That's the name of my book. I was thinking about doing the audio, but I don't know if an older guy doing the voice of a 12-year-old, because it starts off I'm 12 years old and it stopped when I'm 16. So I don't know if if it was just being told with no other people speaking in the book, talking in the book. I think I need a younger voice.
Look at it this way, Al. Robert Degoni, who's one of our podcast friends, we know him from Betsy and I, got to know him at one of the writer cons. He narrates some of his books, and they're teenagers, and some are girls, some are boys,
Oh yeah.
and he even
Yeah.
does women's voices. So it's not that you
Mhm.
And he
you,
says,
you
if
could
you're going to be a
absolutely do
Southern
it.
gentleman, you be a Southern gentleman.
Well, I can be a Southern gentleman, I'm telling you. Yeah.
Was there
Uh,
anything that surprised you about writing your book? Maybe how long it took or something you remembered that you'd forgotten?
that's an excellent question because I was just asked on a previous podcast I was on last week. She says her question was, "What took me so long?" Why no? It was why now? Why now? And I said, "Well, think about it. If you're going back to 1967, all right, there wasn't internet. There was no internet. There was no Google, no FaceTime. There was nothing. So the only thing I had to do was go to the library and try to look through the books there. And there's not much on that, on paranormal or ghost or, I mean, who do you talk to? Because my parents didn't believe me because nothing happened while they were home in 4 years. It happened to quite a few other people now. And every time it happened to my dad's brother and my mother's brother, uh, and they would tell her, we got to get out of this house, it's dangerous. And she would blame me for putting this stuff in their head. So uh, I was in like a no-win situation. And even my sister, I mean, she's seen my brother, had a couple friends, and I guess a couple uncles. But it was tough. So who do you go to? And it's like, even in the 80s, the 90s, 2000, I mean, I think right around, 2010, around there, it was on. I think it was a little more acceptable to talk about UFOs and
Yeah.
Bigfoot and
That's
ghosts.
when
And
all the paranormal shows started coming on TV.
so it was more acceptable. And I think it was more acceptable for maybe people maybe even slightly believing my stories. But I never, like I said before, I didn't really care what people thought of me. Of course you're labeled crazy or out there, but that never bothered me really. But it it played into who's going to help me. I needed help with a spirit because who do I go to talk to this stuff about? Well, I have my grandmother in the book. She was my number one advocate. So because she had her old superstitions and so she was the one I went to. And then I had a really out there, and I say out there, 7th grade teacher. People thought she was crazy because she seen invisible men or little green men, or I mean, all through school she was, I would say, out there. But how can I call her crazy when she's talking about the same thing I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? If I'm seeing a ghost and she's seeing a ghost, how can I say she's crazy? So
Yeah.
that's why I had two people. Maybe like they called her my crazy 7th grade teacher and my grandmother. But well, why now? Well, I think it's more the time is right. Plus, as I still have the memories of what went on in that house, and so yeah, I think that now was a good time.
So I think that really kind of sets us up for you to tell us why we asked you on the show, and we want to hear what your unfreaking believable story is. So Al, the mic is all yours.
Okay, there's 40 chapters in this book, and I'm like, which one should I take? Which story? Because there are so Unfreaking Believable. But I'm gonna take the one that kept me up at night. I mean, even recently, because I didn't think about it too much for the past 57 years. But now writing this book, it kind of sparked some of that drama and excitement. So I was playing in a band, high school band, and we played a gig. We're coming home from the gig, and this car was following us very close. Actually, he rammed the back of my uncle's van that we were in, and he got out and the car took off. Well, then we got back in the van, heading back to the bass player's house where we were spending the weekend at. This car follows us, so came out of nowhere again, that follows us back to the bass player's house. My uncle, who gets out of the van, and this other guy got into a huge fight in the front yard, and my uncle beat the crap out of him. And he said, I'm going to come back. And there was another girl in the car, the other driver, and she got out of the car and she blew my uncle a kiss. And then I remember that, and she walked down the street. I'm 16 years old at this time. And the other guy says, I'm going to come back and kill you guys, right? Well, everybody's, I'm going to come back and show you, I'm going to come back and kill you. In the heat of a fight, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen, right? So my uncle stuck around for another 20 minutes, and the guy never came back. So he took off with our drummer because he had to take him home. And so it was just me, the bass player, and my other guitar player were in the garage together, the three of us. We got one more amplifier to move into the garage that was in the driveway, and we heard a guy's car coming back. We knew it was him because his muffler fell off when he hit my uncle's car. So he was very loud coming down the street, and we was like, oh, crap. We got to get this stuff in the garage. We just got in the garage, and the bass player just got his garage door closed. We heard his feet walking up to the garage door. Of an old garage with the windows, and they're so filthy and mud, you can't see out of the window. That's how the windows, you couldn't see out, but we see his silhouette of his hands up against the glass, trying to look in. And we're frozen in time, man. We're standing there holding this amp, not running, not yelling, not doing anything, standing there, being quiet, like he didn't see us, so we knew he did. And then we heard a click where he put a shotgun, and the first blast took out the one panel of the garage. Then the second blast took out the top windows. Then we heard the neighbor next door yell, the police are on the way. It was maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. This guy took off in his car. At that point, we dropped the amp and we ran up. It was like a duplex. We ran up the stairs, went to the house. Well, long story short, the next morning, we went to the garage to check out the damage. And one of my friends said, before he shot that blast went off, did you all see that silhouette, like a shadow figure, walk in front of us? Well, during the past years, I kept thinking, well, it could have been, car going down the street and his shadow moving across the garage. You try to rule out everything, right? And so I'm thinking it was maybe a shadow. But then I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Inside this garage is peppered with holes, thousands of holes from that wall to that wall, including our speaker cabinet. So everything was peppered with holes. Now, if I'm holding the cabinet on one side and my friend's on the other side holding it, and Alex is standing in front of the cabinet, if anything, he should have been peppered with holes, along with the two, me and my other buddy, right? Not one of us were hit with one pellet. So I would say that was my guardian angel, or our guardian angel, because we were really in a line of danger and escaped that, And
Wow.
then prior before all that even happened, I forgot to add in, the night before, I kept getting this voice in my head don't go. Don't go. Man, what? But see, that happened the whole 4 years I lived in this house. I was always getting signals from,
Wow.
I would say, my guardian angel,
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
And I would always ignore it. And then whenever I ignored it, something would happen, you know. And then to make matters even worse, my grandmother told me, they come in threes, like death. It comes in threes. And
Right.
I'm like, and this is playing a part of my head too. Like, one of us going to be one of those threes, you know? And, yeah, so that's my one unfreaking believable story is, being shot at with thousands, hundreds, at least hundreds of holes, and we weren't hit. I
Wow.
mean, if you look at inside the garage, it was just peppered. I mean,
That is unfreaking believable. Did you learn to listen to that voice in your head after that?
no.
Sounds like we got a chance for you to come back and tell us another unfreaking believable story
Yes,
sometime.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Yeah,
Yeah, wow. That's impressive. I truly believe in listening to those voices, those feelings, even if they're just one of those, something's not quite right and you can't put your finger on it, but you should do something. You have to listen to that. There's a protection there. And there's, whether it's a spirit or just premonition or, just your gut telling you don't do it. You got to listen to that. So
but
good for you.
this whole time this thing went on, there's a
Mhm.
the end of the story is just when I was writing this book, right?
Mhm.
I'm going back. That's the story that really affected me the most, right? I'd wake up like 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night in a cold sweat that I could smell that gun smoke coming up
Mhm.
into the house because we're hidden up in the house, behind the couch, thinking this guy's going to come back. And we could smell that gunpowder coming up into the house. And I could smell that writing this book when I wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
That I would say that probably affected me more than probably any
Mhm.
other stories in the book, even
Yeah.
though there's so much more probably unbelievable. But yeah, that was something you don't forget, and 50 some years later, still
Yeah.
uh, resonates with me about that gun smoke I can still hear the shotgun blast going off, not once, but twice,
Wow.
thinking we're going to die,
Yeah. Yeah. And you could have. You never know.
That's why my book's called Spencer's Ghost, The Guardian.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
don't think
nice.
anybody has asked me
Yeah.
about The Guardian yet,
Yeah.
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 That's pretty cool.
hmm
Yeah. You definitely have a guardian angel for sure.
I agree.
Al, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You can go under Ghost in the Valley, uh, Al Cooley. I have a website, authoralcooley.com. My podcast, Ghost in the Valley, is on all major sites, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, you name it, it's there. And anybody that has a paranormal story they'd like to share is welcome to come on my show.
Very cool. Well, Al, we want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story and explaining what makes you unfreaking believable. I'd also like to thank my lovely co-hosts and my besties. I've missed you girls, and I hope to see you again soon. Listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on whatever platform you listen on. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Audible.
You can also join our Unfreaking Believable Facebook group and follow us on TikTok and Instagram. You can also join us on Patreon for exclusive content and other perks for as little as $1 a month. And that's less than an all-day sucker from the Dollar Tree.
You can also visit our website at www.ufbpodcast.com. And if you have an unfreaking believable story, reach out to us at ufbpodcast@gmail.com because we'd like to hear your story too.
Betsy, you want to send us out with your ever-wise quote of the day?
Yeah, absolutely. So Henry Wadsworth Longfellow said, "The helicon of too many poets is not a hill crowned with sunshine and visited by muses and the graces, but an old moldering house full of gloom and haunted by ghosts."
Love it.
Gotta love Wadsworth Longfellow for sure.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us on the Unfreaking Believable podcast. Remember, as you go out into the world this week, don't just be awesome.
Be unfreaking believable.
See you all next time.